Hey, there's a nice chill in the air and we're ready to connect with Connecticut. Come join me. Hey, I'm Alan Smith. Welcome to Garden Style. We've got a great show in store for you today. And here we're going to learn some really unique ways to grow, cook, and design your world in a way that makes it fun but also easy. We're here in a real gem of New England, Hartford, Connecticut. And in today's show, we're going to learn how to prepare a New England staple, the sea scallop. We'll also visit America's oldest public rose garden. And later, we'll see Harriet Beecher Stowe's design for an ideal kitchen. There's so much to see and do here, and we'll get started right after the break. You know, I am so excited about being in this place. It's the Elizabeth Park Rose Garden in Hartford, Connecticut. This is the oldest municipal rose garden in America. And you may be asking yourself, well, it looks like winter. Well, it is winter, but there's so much to know about roses when they're going dormant and going to sleep. Now, they have over 800 varieties here and over 13,000 plants planted in this garden. So why don't we catch up with my friend and great rosarian, Marcy Martin, and we'll learn a little bit more about it. Hey, Marcy. You are busy at work. Look at this. So I picked myself up some gloves and some bypass pruners. I thought I might help you out a little bit.
Oh, I would love all the help I can get.
Well, you've got a lot of roses to take care of.
Thanks so much. Yeah, well, we are in zone 6B here, so we usually go below 0 in the wintertime. We want to make sure the bud union or the graft is protected, so we like to bury about 4 inches deep.
Right.
When that happens, you're also protecting about 4 inches of cane, and when you do that, you're protecting all of those multitudinous buds that you can't even see on the cane.
Right,
so,
they're dormant, they're hidden.
Right.
Yes.
So we could have a rotten winter here, which is no snow cover, lots of ice, below 0, and your roses can die all the way to the ground, but because that bud union's protected and that length of cane below soil level is protected, you can cut right down to the ground and your roses are going to come back bigger and better than ever.
Fantastic. So you're just doing a coarse cut back below knee height here.
Right. I just call this fall pruning is just gross pruning. Ready? Here goes a big one.
Right. Look at that. And
Off
this
it
is
goes.
the thing people are so frightened to do. They're frightened to cut these things back.
As a matter of fact,
you can't spare the pruning.
That's right.
The more you prune, the more blooms you get.
That's right. The more you prune, the better it is.
All right, now let's talk about the mulch. We've got a little wheelbarrow load over here behind us. I'm just going to take a shovel full here, and what I would typically do is just pour it right down the center here.
That's exactly right. Perfect.
You like that?
I love it.
But what about a little more?
Oh, lots more.
Okay. Now we want to make as much of a mound as we can, really, because that goes back to the protection we talked about.
That's right. This is called magic mulch.
Beautiful stuff. You know, Marcy, I think the winter is a wonderful time to really examine and appreciate the structure and form of a garden, don't you?
Oh yeah, I think it's great.
I love these rose fences and arches. You can certainly see the structure in this garden that supports all of these, well, mainly climbing roses.
Yeah, these are all climbing roses. Some of these have been here since the garden was planted.
Really? Like in 1905, was it?
Actually, it was probably more like 1900.
1900, my goodness.
Yeah.
Now look at this one. This one is a beauty, and it's almost without any sort of prickles or thorns.
Yeah, it is. It's easier to work with.
Now, Marcy, if a homeowner wanted to create a beautiful wall or hedge of climbing roses like this, you all have come up with some really, I think, marvelous techniques for creating this kind of effect. And it's pulling these canes down together, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
May I help hold these down?
That would be wonderful.
So that's what's great about this particular variety, not having those little prickles and thorns, because I can gently pull it down. They're soft and easy to hold down. And we're just simply bundling them
And in the springtime, you're going to get a whole fence full of beautiful
It's just
bloom.
a wall of blooms, and you've just tied this knot here with just a single strand of just jute.
Regular old jute wrapping twine. In the wintertime when the wicked winds come and it blows the canes all over the place,
right,
their skin is just as sensitive to the cold as ours is.
One of the outstanding features of Elizabeth Park is that you have these amazing arches.
Yeah,
let's talk about how you all create that effect.
So over on the fence line, we were tying up climbing roses.
Yeah.
Climbing roses have bigger canes.
Yeah,
and
they're stiffer.
They're a little bit more unruly. These are old ramblers on these arches here. This is, most of these are Dorothy Perkins, which is a really soft pink.
Yeah, she's been around a while.
Oh, a long time, yeah. These are original plantings to the park. And actually, it's not unusual to see these old ladies just to climb right up trees and hang out of the branches and bloom all over the place. We go with these red cedar posts because they're 100-year posts. And this is a big job, so we don't want to do this very often.
No,
so
you don't.
100 years is good. So our friends from the city will pull these roses back around this post with some help and then tie them up with small pieces of jute.
Right, just as we did before.
Right,
yeah.
Just small pieces of jute. It's a soft, natural fiber. And it blends right in with this cedar.
It looks natural. Now, I want to ask you this. If someone wanted to start out with a rambler, what would be the easiest rambler and what would be the easiest climber for someone to start with?
Probably one of these. You just
Dorothy Perkins.
put Dorothy Perkins,
Okay.
you just plant it and it takes off.
Let her go.
It takes off. And climbers also take a little bit longer than bush roses do.
Yes.
So you want to give them 3 or 4 years to get really
And be
established.
patient. And a
Be
good
patient.
climber, would you say New Dawn?
My favorite is Colette.
Colette, I love Colette.
Colette
that
is
salmon.
beautiful, fragrant, lovely, disease-resistant, great rose. Great
Very
rose.
good. It's been such a pleasure being with you.
Oh, it's so nice to meet you too. Please come back and visit us again.
When the roses bloom.
Yes.
After the break, some delicious seafood, so stick around. Now, just how could anyone resist scallops when they're presented like this and fresh? My goodness. And the texture, perfect, the flavor. Oh, Sean, this is fantastic.
Oh, Alan, what do you think?
It is so good, and what I love about it, well, the unique use of the squash, the acorn squash, and the scallops, the texture is perfect, and the flavors of each of these elements really comes through. Would you start with the squash?
Yeah, the squash first, so we would just cut it into some wedges. We toss it with a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper.
Right.
And just roast it in the oven about 350 for say 20, 25 minutes.
Right.
Then the pancetta, we just dice small, put it in the pan and render that slow as your squash is in the oven. You can start doing your pancetta.
I see.
And just get that nice and crispy.
Set it aside.
Set it aside. You don't even need to warm it up. You can just keep it at room temperature.
I see.
You can take the walnuts and just toast them simply in the oven as well.
Right.
That's another.
Because they do have a little crunch to
A little
them.
crunch, which will give us some texture there too. And then you're right. Next, we'll start with the scallops, and we'll just season them aggressively with salt and pepper.
Right.
I like to use the cast iron pan, but any good medium high heat. We'll cook them for about 3 to 4 minutes until you start seeing the golden brown on the bottom of your scallop.
And certainly one of the reasons that these scallops are so tasty, I mean, they're screaming fresh.
They are. These are the best scallops that I've ever experienced and gotten the chance to taste. We get them out of Stonington, Connecticut. The Bomster Brothers is a family-run business for many generations. So our scallops are just about done. So I just got a little paper towel, pull them out and let them let the oil dry off. Cooks nice, medium rare, perfect.
And of course, near and dear to my heart would be this core of salad greens, and it looks like you've used a lovely frisee lettuce.
Yes, and we can use any kind of hard greens are good with this kind of fall fall dish. And we'll take a little bit of this frisee lettuce, some of the pickled radishes.
Those are so good.
Yes, to bring a pickle acid tone to the dish is going to bring it all together. The rendered pancetta. Next up, we're going to make our maple walnut vinaigrette. It'll be 1 part walnut oil, 2 parts olive oil, a little bit of maple syrup. It's Connecticut maple syrup. A little salt and pepper. 1 part champagne vinegar. Just going to whisk this together. We'll season our greens. All right, so we're ready to plate. Everything's ready. I'll just take our walnuts out of the oven that were toasted. Just gonna rough chop these. It's good to keep them rough, a little texture into your dish. When we're plating, it's always nice to have a large white plate. It's a palette, really. So the more negative space you have, the prettier you can make it look. We've got roasted acorn squash, our beautiful Stonington scallops. Take a little bit of our maple walnut vinaigrette. We'll just drizzle that around the plate. Little chives.
This must be a very popular dish on your dinner menu.
Scallops are always one of our top selling dishes. We can never have enough of them. I have to drive down to see the Bombsters once every couple of weeks and pick up several pounds.
That's awesome. Hey, I know you've got a busy night tonight with lots of folks coming in and wanting scallops, so thanks for spending time with me and sharing this recipe.
Oh, it's been fun. Thanks, Al.
You bet. When we return, we'll learn more about these yummy scallops.
My name is William Bombster. I own the Fisher Vessel Patty Joe and Stonington Joe, and me and my brothers are commercial sea scallopers. I've been selling to Firebox for about 7-8 years, and I know they like to have the freshest product they can. They come down, and they searched me out and heard about my scallops, and these guys like to come down and search out the best products they can get to serve at their restaurant, and that's what you have to do if you want quality food. Scallop is a shellfish. It has 2 shells like this. It has an abductor muscle, which is the scallop meat. We open every one by hand, and we save the abductor muscle. The shell and the what we call the gut go back in the water. Most scallop boats traditionally ice and bag the scallops. What we do is we vacuum pack them in plastic bags, so they never ever touch any freshwater ice. Freeze them at -40 or -50 in our plate freezer to lock in the freshness. Everything's sold by count. Bigger ones are worth a lot of money. The smaller they get, the less money they're worth. They go straight out of the boat, straight from where they were harvested, right to the people.
There's more Garden Style just after the break.
Hi, my name is Beth, and welcome to Harriet Beecher Stowes Kitchen here in Hartford, Connecticut. I want to talk to you today a little bit about the principles Stowe and her sister Catherine Beecher applied in their book, The American Woman's Home, which was published in 1869. They really do apply to today's life as well. We have a center table, very much like a kitchen island today. A cleaning station, which has the sink beneath it, narrow shelves above it, so you can always see what you need and nothing gets lost behind something. Behind me is the cooking station, which is the oven, and while it is not the original oven to Stowe's home, it is of the period, and it has 6 burners, 2 actual ovens, and then a warming station up above. So in essence, it's very much like modern ovens today, except coal-fired, of course. The baking station, very much like the cleaning station, it is an organized workspace with the things you need on the shelves above it. And then below you have your barrel of flour built right in to the countertop, as well as room for other sacks of grains below. So the principles that were applied here in this kitchen, running a very efficient home so that you'll be organized and it frees you up to have more time to do things with your family and friends, are really what we still all look for today.
have never seen one of these Wardian cases in America, and I can't believe that the Beechers had one.
Yes, yes. The Beecher sisters, Harriet and Catherine, wrote about it, published about it in 1869 in a book called The American Woman's Home.
Yes, where they're trying to give people ideas about how to make their homes more beautiful and comfortable.
Precisely.
And this idea of, well, maybe you couldn't afford a large greenhouse or a conservatory, but you could have one of these, which is called the Wardian case, in your home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's a much earlier idea from the 1820s, but it was still common enough that they published about it here.
Well, you know, this Wardian case is very important because early 19th century, I think in like 1829 or 30, Nathaniel Ward came up with this idea of figuring out how to transport live plants across the vast oceans.
Right.
And it evolved into this sort of beautiful thing to have in the house to grow plants. Of course, today we have all of these house plants that are so common to us, but in the 19th century, people went plant crazy.
They sure did.
And being able to get them shipped from really exotic places like India or China or New Zealand was almost impossible because they would die. They would plant them in these and they could stay on a voyage for a long time.
That's right. That's exactly right. Ward designed it so you could lift the gable right off.
So this just lifts over.
Correct, and then you have your access to the plants.
You could put the plants in there, and then it has this tray, a copper tray that it sits in. And I love the way the Beechers actually had it lifted up where it becomes something that is very beautiful in the home.
Right, decorative, and adds to the beauty of your home. That was really one of the major points of that book.
Yeah, amazing. Well, we certainly know Harriet Beecher Stowe for her magnum opus, Uncle Tom's Cabin, but she had an artistic flair. She was a very accomplished painter.
She certainly was, yes. You'll see a lot of her art throughout the home here, but mostly florals and landscapes. It really was something that was a close hobby of hers.
It's very inspiring.
Yes.
Thank you for your time today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
It's a real pleasure to be here and to see a Wardian case. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I hope you've enjoyed our time together in Connecticut as much as I have, and I hope you've picked up some inspirational ways to grow, cook, and design your world. Until next time, for Garden Style, I'm Alan Smith.
All right. Wow, that reminds me of castanets. Yes.
So it reminds me of my teeth chattering in the cold. All right.
Exactly.
So you can get the rest of it. I know how you operate. Now, when you say season aggressively, quantify that just a little bit. Per scallop, I mean, this little guy right here.
We have a term that we usually say, let it rain. So you're holding your salt and pepper up a little bit high, and you're just letting it coat it evenly around.
In 1976, when I got out of high school, I fished with my father to Bedford that summer. Then we moved down to Connecticut. We were from Connecticut. And then we started fishing out of Stonington, and here we are.
Tell me, right?
They will. Stand by. I'll know when you know, and you'll know when I know, because they'll let us know. Together.